welcome into the weekend update edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Coming in a little late, had some production issues, but Wade and I are with you here from the Murphy Center in Murfreesboro, site of the TSSAA Girls Basketball State Tournament. It is semifinal Friday here in the 11,000-seat Lee Company studio.
The biggest Lee Company studio we've had this year, at least.
Certainly this year.
And so it's a little quiet as we just saw a really good ball game and a really good comeback from Moore County, who's going to punch their ticket to Saturday's championship game. But in between games right now, it's just a little bit of calm before the storm, I think, Mr.
I kind of like it like this.
Yeah.
There's no think it's going to stay like this for very long.
No, you are 100% right. There will be a raucous environment as we continue on throughout the day. Wayne County is warming up out on the court. But, yeah, no bands blasting in our ear right now, which is at least a little reprieve, at least for the moment. Right?
A momentary respite here before Wayne County and Wayne County and Pickett County get going in the other Class 1A semifinal. As you mentioned, the winner will be playing Moore County, who just defeated Greenfield in the earlier 1A semifinal. Big show here on this Friday, as we will be visiting in the second hour with CBS Sports' Connor GROEL, talking a little women's basketball bracketology. And if y'all knew how hard it was to find a women's basketball bracketologist, you would appreciate this upcoming segment a little bit more. But credit to Chris Yao for putting us in touch with Connor GROEL. We're going to, again, talk a little women's basketball bracketology in the second hour. In our next segment, we're going to visit with Ann KIMMEL, talk a little Predators, as the trade deadline in the NHL is in about an hour, I think, maybe a little bit less. I think it's 3 o'clock Central Time, 4 Eastern. So, we'll see what the Predators have done and what they do here in the next bit. They're going to talk a little college basketball, obviously. We've got the SEC Women's Basketball Tournament continuing over in Greenville, South Carolina. We'll have some updates on that. And a little football, some pro, some college. We've had some developments, and we'll talk a little bit about those as we go deeper into the show. So big show here as we head toward the weekend.
Close out the weekend style. It's been a great couple of days here in Murfreesboro, and we've got a great couple of hours on tap to bring us into the weekend. I'm ready to rock and roll, my friend.
Absolutely. And so without any further ado, let's get you started with yesterday's results and this weekend's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
The Friday Rundown is brought to you by Chip Walters of Exit Realty, Bob Lamb & Associates. The Blue Raider voice also wants to be your trusted advisor in real estate. Contact Chip at 615-542-1915 or through his website at choosechip.net. Chip Walters, proud to support youth sports across Middle Tennessee.
Let's dive right in, folks. We have results from yesterday, and we have results from here inside the Murphy Center as the Loretto Lady Mustangs defeated Westview 54-49. They'll be in action a little bit later this evening. More on them in the rest of our rundown. But what a win yesterday in the Class AA quarterfinals. On the baseball side of things, it was Brentwood 3, Ravenwood 1. Clarksville Academy also got a 3-1 win. That was over Portland. It was Collinwood 14, Hampshire 0. Columbia Academy also posting a shutout, 11-0 over Waverly. It was Summertown 9, Eagleville 1. Gallatin picks up a 2-1 win versus Friendship Christian. 11-1 was the score between Rossview and Hendersonville. Rossview with a nice victory there. Nolensville 6, John Overton 1. Blackman puts up 19 runs, just 3 for Laverne. Good win there for the Blaze. Again, 19-3 your final. 10-0, Goodpasture defeats Lawson yesterday. 10-1, Lebanon knocks off Sycamore. In a close ball game, Dixon County 3, Mount Juliet 2. The Middle Tennessee Monarchs put up 11 runs. 11-1, they win it versus Mount Juliet Christian. Oakland took care of Lincoln County 4-2. Perry County wins not 1, but 2 versus Houston County, and both were shutouts. 12-0 in game 1, 10-0 in game number 2. Riverdale puts up a 10-2 win versus Creekwood. McEwen defeated Santa Fe 15-5. Siegel knocking off Coffee County 9-2. And rounding out your baseball scores from yesterday, it was Riverdale 5 and Smyrna nothing.
In softball action on Thursday, Centennial with a 16-0 win over Laverne. Friendship Christian defeated Christian Community 19-0. Summit with an 11-7 win over Mount Juliet. It was Riverdale 12, Trousdale County 1, and Stewart's Creek edges Nolensville 9-8. Boys soccer action. Centennial with a 3-1 win over Overton, and Ravenwood blanked Gallatin 4-0. In men's basketball action yesterday, in the Missouri Valley tourney, Arch Madness, Belmont with an 86-61 win over Valparaiso, despite a double-double from Jerry Palm.
How about that?
10 points, 14 rebounds.
Wow.
Multi-talented Jerry Palm.
He was just on our show, and then he immediately puts up a double-double.
Went up and put up a double-double.
Wow.
Hey, we've told you, when you come on Main Street Sports today, good things happen. Western Illinois knocks Tennessee State out of the OVC tournament with a 61-59 victory. In the A-Sun, it was Austin Peay defeating North Alabama 77-71. No last-minute heroics for North Alabama in that one, unfortunately. Women's basketball action. Eastern Illinois defeats Tennessee State 60-48 in the OVC tournament. In SEC tournament action, it was Tennessee 76, Kentucky 62. Belmont 77, Bradley 72 in the Missouri Valley. And again, in SEC tournament action, it was Florida 62, Vanderbilt 59. Vanderbilt with a couple of shots late to tie it, couldn't get them to go. And the Commodores are done in Greenville. In ice hockey action at the National Hockey League level, the Predators picked up their 9th win in their last 10 games, doubling up the Sabres 4-2. Again, we're going to be talking to Ann Kimmel later in the show about that one and more with the Preds.
Into our schedule we go. Girls basketball, as we mentioned earlier, Loretto is going to take on Gatlinburg-Pittman. That game comes your way at 5:30. But prior to that, Clarksville Christian will take on Mount Pisgah Christian. That tip-off is set for 4:30. Softball action Friday. We begin. It'll be East Nashville visiting Pope John Paul II. That game is set to begin at 4:30. Nashville Christian will travel to Columbia at 5:30. In Saturday softball action, Riverdale is at Warren County, and that first pitch is set for 1 p.m. Baseball action, we head into the weekend. Clarksville's at Siegel tonight. This afternoon, rather. It's 4:30 will be your start time there. Columbia will also make a trip to Murfreesboro to travel to Oakland. First pitch coming your way at 5:30. Stewart's Creek will visit Rockvale at 6 p.m. this evening. Montgomery Central will visit Clarksville Academy at 6:15. Father Ryan is at Centennial. That first pitch is set for 7 o'clock tonight. Siegel tomorrow is going to visit Columbia. First pitch there is set for noon. At 1 o'clock, Dixon County will travel to Oakland. And at 4 p.m., Rossview will make the trip and take on Bartlett. Women's college basketball heading into the weekend. Tennessee and Alabama underway as we speak, and that game can be seen, what little bit is remaining, on the SEC network. Kennesaw at Austin versus Austin Peay in the ASUN tournament. That game is set to begin at 5. It can also be seen on ESPN Plus. And Trevecca is set to take on Malone in the GMAC tournament. That game's at 6:30. They could also play more this weekend if Trevecca were able to win that game. So we'll keep tabs on that over the course of the weekend. More women's college basketball into Saturday. La Tech MTSU. Get your coffee and get your biscuits here in the Murphy Center. They will tip it off at 9:30 a.m. And then we have 4 really good high school basketball games to follow. So a busy day here tomorrow in the Glass House. At 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, Belmont versus Illinois State. And then also at 4 p.m. in a game that will be broadcast on ESPN Plus, it'll be Eastern Kentucky taking on Lipscomb.
Men's basketball action at 2:30. At the bottom of the hour here, it's Belmont and Northern Iowa in the Missouri Valley tournament. You can see that on ESPN Plus. Tomorrow, 2 o'clock, also on ESPN Plus. We spoke with Nick McDevitt yesterday. The Blue Raiders finish up the regular season at 2 o'clock tomorrow over at Louisiana Tech. Again, you can see that game on ESPN Plus. At 3 o'clock on CBS, it's Kentucky and Tennessee closing out the regular season in Southeastern Conference play. Also at 3:30, big Southeastern Conference matchup as Florida comes to Memorial Gym taking on the Commodores. 3:30 SEC Network. On Sunday, 1 o'clock, you can see it on ESPN2. It's the ASUN Championship game as Austin Peay travels to Stetson in DeLand, Florida, taking on the Hatters. NBA action tonight. The Atlanta Hawks invade FedEx Forum, taking on the Grizzlies of Memphis. Again, that's a 7 o'clock tip. You can see it on Valley Sports South. Tomorrow, the Grizzlies travel to Oklahoma City for a 6 o'clock tip. That one's also on Valley Sports South. Saturday, Breakfast with the Predators, 11:30. They will be playing in Columbus. I guess it's 12:30 Columbus time, so it's not so bad. But Nashville at Columbus, 11:30 Nashville time. Puck drop on Valley Sports. Sunday, the Preds are in Minnesota for a 2 o'clock start. That one can be seen both on TNT and what is Max?
Formerly HBO.
Formerly HBO. Okay, there we go. And on the pitch, Sunday, 2 o'clock, the Nashville Soccer Club is at the LA Galaxy. Again, that's 2 o'clock Nashville time. You can see it on Apple TV. That is your rundown. Today's top story brought to you, as always, by Piggly Wiggly over in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options. You can also check out their hand-cut meats, and everything is cost plus 10% at the register at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia, who's bringing you today's top story. Wade was actually on hand for today's top story, and it's a little disappointing at Geodis as it turned out. We talked about Nashville hoping to get out with a tie. Well, eventually they did get out with a tie, but they didn't have to.
Yeah, tough go of it last night for Nashville, hosting Miami for a game that had all the hoopla and all the drama off the field last night heading into it. They actually outplayed Miami for a vast chunk of the game and had to kind of settle, for lack of a better term there, for a draw. 2-2, your final result there, as Miami scores 2 goals after Nashville had already gotten off to a 2-0 lead. Could have even maybe led by more. There were a few questionable refereeing decisions, as Coach Gary Smith put them, and Nashville unfortunately went in the other direction on all of those decisions practically. And Messi gets a goal in the second half, and then Suarez scores late at the death practically to make it 2-2. And it's one of those draws that, yeah, coming into the game, maybe you're like, okay, we'll take a draw, all things considered. But the way the game went, and especially considering how late Miami scored, me at least, you got to be disappointed because you had Miami essentially beat. And that's the second time that Miami has came in here after the League's Cup last year, and you kind of had to settle for a draw. So in the grand scheme of things, kind of disappointing, at least in my mind, for NSC last night.
That wasn't the only thing that happened at Geodis Park last night, was it?
Well, funnily enough, you're right about that. Is Chris and I talked about some speculation Tuesday that Hani Mukhtar would re-sign a deal, and kind of an unusual rollout, if nothing else. They, right as the teams were coming out for warm-ups, they brought everybody's attention to mid-pitch, and Mukhtar announced an official deal. He's got a couple new years on his contract. They didn't immediately release the terms as far as finances are concerned, but he's around for at least the next couple of seasons, which is obviously huge. Has a player option for a third year potentially. So that part was massive. I got to talk to Hani after the match last night. You know, he's obviously excited about that. And he had a much more optimistic viewpoint about the result last night, as did Coach Gary Smith. They're going to play next Wednesday. And the good news is if Nashville wins the match next week, it doesn't matter what the score is. If they win the match, they're going to go through to the next round. But if it's a draw, those 2 goals that Miami scored on the road last night, that's your first tiebreaker, the away goals. And so those were 2 massive goals for Miami. So
Nashville needs, at worst, a 3-3 draw.
2-2 would get you to, a 3-3 draw would get them to advance. A 2-2 draw would send it to penalty kicks because they would, be 2-2 and 2-2. But yeah, so NSC is kind of in a bad spot, but the optimistic viewpoints from both Honey Mukhtar and Coach Smith last night, they said, hey, and Honey went pro football on it. He said, hey, this thing's only at halftime right now. He said, we got a whole nother match to play. We like some things that we did. Mukhtar started last night. He was not at his best by any stretch after slowly coming back from an injury. But they were optimistic coming out of it. As a fan, a little disappointed with the result. But, I mean, hey, at least you give yourself a little bit of a chance. You know what you need going into Miami next week now.
Well, and they have to feel pretty good about themselves going into Miami for the fact that they were up 2-0 at one point.
Yep. And, Jacob Schaffelberg scores the 2 goals. He had a second goal that was an absolute screamer last night. And there was some chatter going around in the press box. He's a Canadian national. They were calling him Manitoba Messi last night because he was on fire. And Gary Smith said in the press conference last night, that is him at his all-time best. And he almost assisted on the 3rd Nashville goal that was eventually called back due to offsides late in the contest. That would have put them up 3-1. Otherwise, we're talking about a much different situation. So, yeah, you kind of see some optimism for NSC going into this, but it is also a little frustrating coming out of this being 2-2.
Right.
And that's kind of the beauty of it, I guess, is you'll have a chance to prove it on the field next Wednesday in the second leg of that. But as we touched in the rundown, and no one mentioned this last night at all because so much of the conversation fixated on CONCACAF, you still got a big match in MLS coming up on Sunday too. So there's going to be a lot of roster management going into play in terms of who they're going to try it out on Sunday, because for all intents and purposes, next Wednesday is the much, much bigger showdown at this point.
Okay. All right. So over the next few days, Nashville Soccer Club will be in LA against the Galaxy on Sunday. Again, you can see that one on Apple TV. And then they'll be in Miami on Wednesday against Inter Miami. Do we know game time, where it can be seen?
Should be back on FS2. Probably going to be probably will flip-flop and probably be an earlier start. They had the 8 o'clock tip-off last night. So I would imagine they'll be a
7 o'clock, 8 o'clock
earlier.
Eastern, yeah. Okay. All right, we'll try to get that for you here as we go into
and
a break.
they'll be at home Sunday versus the Galaxy, which is at least a little better because then they can load up, obviously, for Miami. I wouldn't be surprised if Sunday versus the Galaxy, they don't trot out a quote-unquote weaker lineup because, again, they've played 7 matches in 20, 21 days. Okay. There's a lot of tread on those tires right now, so don't be surprised if they give some of the younger guys a chance. And then if you do fall to Miami, you kind of restore back to your traditional lineup, your traditional schedule, and you kind of get back into things. But right now, in this round of 16, it's kind of shaking their roster management up a touch as well.
Okay. So Nashville Soccer Club is at Geodis Sunday afternoon before they go to Miami for a midweek matchup. So, all right. Good that we got that straight. Main Street Sports Today, presented by Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, continues after this break. We will be joined by Ann Kimmel of Penalty Box Radio talking Little Preds. Stay with us.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers. Putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Welcome back to the Weekend Update edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. This is Wade Neely, who is having some technical difficulties with some audio.
Well, just in life, usually I'm having technical difficulties, so today is really not that much different. And it's Freaky Friday, too, so just glad to be here. Watching a good ball game. We're having a good show thus far, and excited to talk a little, probably the hottest team in all of the NHL right now at this moment, my friend.
I can't imagine a team being hotter than the Nashville Predators. 9-0-1 over their last 10 following last night's 4-2 win over Buffalo, as Philip Scoresberg comes through with a hat trick in that victory. And to talk a little bit more about where the Predators are right now is Ann Kimmel, newly minted Penalty Box Radio, Ann Kimmel. Ann, welcome to the show. Congratulations on the new gig. You know, you put out a tweet a couple of weeks ago saying that it was your last day at your previous spot, and we were really kind of on pins and needles because we really enjoyed having you on, and glad that we're able to continue to do so.
Yeah, thank you. You know, I love coming on to talk Preds hockey with y'all. Super excited, too, about the new gig with Penalty Box Radio. So it's been great.
Good. I guess the first thing, before we get into last night's win, them getting back into their winning ways after Tuesday's overnight loss. Trade deadline today. What has happened? What's going to happen with the Preds here over the next bit?
Well, the Predators made a couple of moves, not anything super earth-shattering yet. They added Anthony Beauvillier. They also added Jason Zucker. So we've got a couple more forwards to kind of toss in the mix. I think Barry Trotz is looking for some depth scoring, some depth pieces for the Predators. Got those. didn't cost him very much at all. So this has really been one of those trade deadlines where it's been low risk, low cost. And I think Barry Trotz really wants to see what can this team do as they head into the postseason.
You know, a month ago, we'd have never thought that the Predators would be buyers at the trade deadline, but clearly that's the case now, as you outlined with those two moves there. Now, there was a move yesterday as well. Is that right, with Yakov Trenev?
They did, yeah. So the Predators traded forward Yakov Trenin to Colorado, which was an interesting move. Trenin was one of a handful of UFAs that Nashville really had to decide on. Of course, everybody loved Yakov Trenin, but really wasn't producing maybe offensively like Barry Trotz was hoping for. So he sort of traded the physicality of Yakov Trenin for maybe an opening for some speed and some scoring players in that middle six. So Trenin went to Colorado. The Predators got a third-round pick and a young defensive prospect in return.
And as we've seen this Preds run kind of unfold, I love Mo surmised it a moment ago. They're now the buyers and not the sellers. Is this something that you kind of saw that was a potential? Because it seems like this team was maybe not left for dead, but they have just really taken their play up to a whole new notch. And are we kind of approaching the ceiling for this team, or are they still got another threshold that maybe they can burst through in the final few weeks and months of this regular season?
You're definitely seeing the best of the Nashville Predators right now. You've seen little glimpses of it, a game here and a game there. But what we've seen over this stretch is some really good quality, consistent play, which is what you've needed from this team. You've seen some depth scoring. You've seen the top line continue to be really good. I don't know that this means that they're going to make that deep Stanley Cup run. I do think it means this team is fighting to get in the playoffs. This is a locker room that wants the postseason. They're in a really good position for it. And, once you get in the postseason, yes, anything can happen. But I think Barry Trotz really understands the value of the experience of the postseason for these young players. It may not be that they're going to make it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals, but I know Barry Trotz wants to get especially these young players experience in the postseason, understanding the higher stakes, the harder you have to play, managing your body after an 82-game regular season. So they're in a great spot to do that. And I think Trotz has to be really happy with what he's seen from the team, especially recently.
Yeah, with such a young team, is there a little bit of an element of maybe they just don't know any better and that's why they're playing and they're just absolutely grinding their guts out on a nightly basis right now, because this is, like you said, a very young team that is playing at almost their absolute best right now.
Yeah, I think there is an element of what I like to call YOLO. Like they're just sort of out there. They're hungry. They're seeing improvements. I think you have individual players like Tommy Novak, like Luke Evangelista, these young guys who are at a point in the season where they can look back and say, wow, I can see that I've gotten better. I wonder what else I can do. So I think there's just kind of that, you don't know what to be afraid of when you've not been there before vibe in the locker room. And they also have really great veteran leadership that isn't putting a lot of pressure on these young guys, but is also balancing that by preparing them for what comes next at this point in the season. So they're just in a really good spot right now.
Ann Kimmel of Penalty Box Radio joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. And Ann, you made a point a second ago when you talked about getting into the playoffs with some of these young guys, because I think there's a portion of this fan base that kind of feels like, you get into the playoffs, but you lose in the first round. You're just kind of spinning your wheels, that you're kind of in purgatory there to some degree. But you make the point that getting these young guys a taste of the playoffs, a taste of what playoff hockey is like, that kind of thing can have a lasting impact down the road in their progression, in their development. So that's kind of the important part of getting into the postseason with this team this year, if that is a possibility, I guess.
Yeah, and I think fans kind of have that. It feels the same, the Predators are going to get in the playoffs and lose in the first round. We've been there. We've done that. We're stuck. But feelings can't always be trusted. Can we just say that? It may feel that way, but this is a very different experience. This is a Predators team that is not supposed to be a cup contender. This is a Predators team with young players trying to get experience. So if this team gets into the playoffs and gets competitive in the first round of the playoffs and exits in 6 games, 7 games, that's a different postseason than what the Predators have been through in the last 4 or 5 years.
So that said, Ann, how important was it to bounce back from that overtime loss on Tuesday night and pick up 2 points last night with that win over Buffalo? And it's just kind of keep the good vibes going with this team with their 9th win in 10 games.
Yeah, it was so important for them to get back to winning, getting back to getting 2 points. Andrew Brunette has been really honest to say it's hard to maintain that high level of play that they've had over that 8-game win streak. It's also really hard to get back to it. And I don't think you saw Nashville's best against Buffalo last night, but you saw them do enough, and you saw players like Philip Forsberg, Gus Nyquist, take over that game for the Predators. So I think to get back to getting 2 points, winning in regulation, continuing the point streak, that's going to be huge for them. They're heading into a weekend with afternoon back-to-back games, and I think they really needed that win last night to kind of keep that good mojo going.
Yeah, and that was a question I had, and other than, I guess, lack of experience, but we do know we have some veteran leadership. Other than maybe the lack of experience overall, what are 1 or 2 key things that Nashville will really have to be worried about coming down the stretch? I guess really, how does the schedule look and things of that nature is kind of where I'm alluding to.
Yeah, I think the Predators actually are in a pretty good spot as far as the end of the season goes. Last year, their April schedule, March and April, was really, really tough. I don't think it's quite as tough right now. And they've put themselves in such a great position, with 75 points right now. They're in a great position. They've built a little bit of a buffer for that wild card spot, but they really need to focus on a couple things. Number one, they need to keep getting quality goaltending. UC Saros is excellent down the stretch, and I think we're going to see that. Kevin Lankinen has been very good for the Predators in tough games. As of now, he's still a Nashville Predator. So I think, goaltending will be key. I also think depth scoring, something that I think Barry Trotz made moves for at this trade deadline. Depth scoring is going to be key. We've seen the top line carry the Preds for a while, but now they're going to need these other lines to step up with consistency. So those are the things they're really going to need down the stretch to stay where they're at.
And the trade deadline is officially passed, right?
Yes.
We're done. So
we're done.
So there's nothing else. I mean, unless somebody's late in actually reporting something, there's no more moves to be made along those lines, right?
It should be. All of the offers have to be into the NHL by 2:00 Central Time. So all of the moves are finished. Whether the word comes out afterward, that's what we're waiting to see. But I think probably the Predators are done. I don't think we're going to hear anything too late.
Feel pretty good about what they were able to get done relative to, where they were and what they might need to look at?
I do. I think some people maybe felt like if you're going to make some moves, leave room to bring up some of these young guys from Milwaukee. Barry Trotz opted to bring in a couple of veterans to maybe fill some middle six roles, but I think that could be really good. Again, low cost, low risk, and I think Barry Trotz made some really smart moves. I think it's going to be interesting to see what these couple of additions do for the lineup.
And I guess it's good to kind of observe Barry Trotz in his first year as a GM and see what approach he took to the trade deadline and how he went about addressing whatever issues, for lack of a better word, there may have been with the Predators roster at this point.
Yeah, and this was a tricky trade deadline. I mean, he had a slew of UFAs that he has to make decisions on. You had a team that after that abysmal Dallas loss, you thought they are going to sell everything, including the popcorn at Bridgestone Arena. We are done. And then now all of a sudden they're on this streak. So Barry Trotz has had to make some pivots, but also keep kind of the bigger picture in mind as he does this reset. And I think he really walked that line very well.
And to be fair, he probably had the big picture in mind even after that Dallas loss. I mean, I would imagine that the overreaction was over various airwaves and in various seating areas in Bridgestone and that kind of thing, more so than in the Preds front office. But at the same time, 9-2 leaves a mark.
Ooh, that one hurt. I'm not going to lie. That one stung. But I think you're right. I think fans look at a team game by game. I think coaches look at a team maybe week to week. I think GMs watch a team, year to year to year. So Barry Trotz's perspective is going to be very different than the fans sitting in the seat. But I think everybody can agree that Dallas loss, that was woof. Nobody wants to do that again.
No.
Yeah. Hey, and real quick before we get you out of here, you mentioned fans. What are the vibes like nights now at Bridgestone Arena? Because when that team is playing well, we know how electric that building can be, and it seems like they're headed in that right direction.
It has been really incredible over this homestand at the end of this win streak. They kicked off that win streak on the road. They brought it home, and I'm telling you, the fans are here for what the Predators are putting on the ice. When you see a team put in the effort and the energy, you see the talent that's on the ice, you see them working hard. Bridgestone Arena is a lot of fun to be at right now.
Predators travel to Columbus for an 11:30 a.m. Central Time puck drop. You can see it again on Valley Sports. And KIMMEL, Penalty Box Radio, joining us. And we appreciate your time and look forward to visiting with you here again soon.
That sounds great. Thanks, guys, so much.
Thank you, Ann.
We're going to take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we're going to talk a little college basketball, and we may have a guest. Because, again, you never know who might drop by here in the Lee Company studio at Murphy Center. Stay with us.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers. Putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA. With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you. No matter what's happening in the world, or at your house.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
The weekend edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely wetting his whistle over there. I'm Maurice Patton. And timing is everything.
You can't.
We are joined by Jacksonville State Athletics Director Greg Seitz here at the Glass House. Greg, in hostile territory here, as it were.
Hey, I tell you, I enjoy this. Y'all sell Fiji water. I'm telling you what.
Now, where did you get that, man?
That's the concession stand.
That's the high-end stuff. Coach Chris Massaro's got it going on up here.
You can tell I'm close to Nashville. We don't sell Fiji water in Jacksonville, Alabama.
What about Oxford?
Oxford may, but we don't here.
Okay. I'm told, Wade, we have no camera for Greg.
Stand by then.
Okay. Let's I mean, we can't have Greg Seitz on and not show you his pretty mug. Now, Wayne County alumnus Greg Seitz, by the way, who is in pretty good spirits right now as his Lady Wildcats lead Pickett County 37-31 here in the Class 1A state semifinals.
I was feeling a little better at the end of the first quarter, I'll be honest.
Yeah, well, they were in a little bit more control at the end of the first quarter. Yeah, Pickett County kind of closed the gap a little bit here. But at the same time, you guys are in pretty good shape right now. 6-point lead with 16 minutes to play.
Yeah, I think so. And I think the experience, they were state runner-up the last 2 years. So obviously being here before, I think is an advantage. So, in the longer court, I heard some of the girls talking last night that, they were more winded because this court's longer than the normal high school court, which honestly I didn't even think about from that aspect, but it's 10 feet longer than what they used to play on. So I know so some of the girls on the Wayne County team was talking about they were a little more tired than usual.
Well, that's okay, because I imagine some of the Pickett County girls are a little bit.
Yeah, it goes both ways.
For sure.
It's
absolutely
the same size for everybody. Greg, you've been here, you've had the opportunity to be here for a few days in your capacity as Wayne County alumnus, but you've also kind of been checking things out as a Division I college administrator. I know you and Chris Massaro have been hanging out a little bit, and obviously now that Jacksonville State and MTSU are both members of Conference USA, you're kind of looking at things a little differently, I guess. It's like, what have they got that we don't got? What do we have?
Yep.
That they don't have, different things like that. What can I go back and tell my people to use in their recruiting pitches, particularly when they're going for somebody who is also considering Middle Tennessee State, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. And I always like to do that when I can get up and get a few days to do that. Obviously, I've known Murphy Center for a long time, but I really haven't seen a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, the locker rooms, the players' lounges, that type of stuff. So it was good yesterday. Chris spent way more time than he should have, but I was very thankful for that yesterday. But it was great to get out and see, and excited about the football project I know they've got going on here. We, just like us at Jack State, we're opening a new football building this summer. So I just wanted to kind of see, okay, hey, where do we stack up, and what do they have? So it was great just to get in, because we haven't been in the same league until this year, so it's a good opportunity.
I guess there's no really new ideas from an administrative perspective, so it's not like you're going to walk around here and see something and think, hey, that's something we should be doing. It's you kind of know what there is and what works and what doesn't, I guess. Is that
Yeah, it is. And then just sharing ideas, like, from an academic standpoint, maybe we can get some things that, hey, maybe is working well for Middle Tennessee that we could take back to our place, in athletic training and just some of those overall, maybe not necessarily that impacts a particular sport, but impacts all the sports overall. So it was nice just to sit and pick his brain and in the vision that they have. Obviously, Middle Tennessee has been very successful in Conference USA, and if we're going to be competitive, I want to see what we've got to do to, be as good as Middle Tennessee and Western Kentucky, obviously.
Absolutely. And Greg, we've had Chris and a couple of coaches from MTSU on the show this week while we've been here. And so I guess I'll ask some of the same questions. Give us an overview of maybe what you're most proud of recently with your program, and maybe what's you're most proud of that's on the horizon down there in Alabama.
Yeah, probably the thing I'm most proud of is the success of our football team this year under third-year head coach Rich Rodriguez. It was our first year in. We became the first school in the history of the NCAA to go to a bowl game and win that bowl game your first year. Mm-hmm. 4 other schools have done that in their first year, but all 4 of those schools had lost that. So for us to get the opportunity to go to the New Orleans Bowl, to do that, we've had a great recruiting class, and as we look to build on that coming for the future, obviously football is very important to us, and we've had a lot of success, 25 conference championships, and Liberty's kind of the cream of the crop in this league. But for us, I think in our first year, I knew we'd be competitive, but I'm not sure I thought we would be that good that quick.
I guess, since you mentioned Liberty, kind of a big picture question. Feel free to answer, I guess, as much or as little as you want. But what's it like having a school with so many, I guess, financial potential advantages that Liberty does possess, being in a mid-major caliber type conference? What does that present for you guys as far as trying to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak, in terms of finances, knowing that they obviously have a unique situation there?
Yeah, they do. And they obviously have a huge advantage over every other school in Conference USA. I really think the rest of us, when you look at the 9 other schools, when Kennesaw comes in next year, we're all pretty similar except for Liberty, is that one outlier. But I think the success that not only Jack State, but all the schools have had against that just shows. And I think, we all talk about it, we all are chasing kind of Liberty.
Yep.
So what can we do to, get better? Maybe we can't do it on the financial side, but maybe we have other advantages to our to each individual school that may be our advantage, and how do we take advantage of that?
Another question real quick. I asked Chris this, and he took it a different direction, but obviously this landscape just changes seemingly on a day-to-day basis. But where does Jack State sit? And maybe what can you tell us about NIL and just where you guys are and trying to, I guess the overall question is, try and recruit better and higher quality student athletes to your campus?
Yeah, I mean, it's, used to, in the old days, it used to be all about relationships, right? I mean, you thought you could come in there, hey, if I got a culture that's good, that the kids will stay. Unfortunately, that's kind of, that is not it. I will say that for us, we really only lost one football kid that we weren't expecting to lose to the transfer portal. So I feel like we've really got a lot of great things going on. We do have an NIL collective, that's able to assist and help in that recruiting, because you better jump on board because it's here. It's not going away. I don't think there'll probably be some guardrails, hopefully, coming down the line, but we can't put the genie back in the bottle at this point. So I think we all need to adapt and figure out a way, hey, how can we make this work and what's best for Jacksonville State?
I don't think people necessarily realize how much schools like a Jacksonville State, schools in small communities necessarily get the kind of backing that would really make them a little bit more of a heavier hitter in NIL than you might anticipate.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I think, that goes again to our history and tradition. We've won at every level, Maurice, that we've ever competed in. Certainly there in the 2000s when we were in the OVC, I mean, we reeled off 8 conference championships, and we won 5 in a row. We won 42 straight games. So obviously that helps that culture, right, and builds it.
And there's a lot of pride in the area about, in your case, Jacksonville State.
Oh, absolutely. And I think for us, it was so advantageous to hire a name like Rich Rodriguez.
Yeah.
And in our state, people may not remember, I know they do in our state, but maybe in this part of the world they don't, but he turned down the Alabama job in 2008. It worked out pretty good.
It was a sliding doors moment of all time.
But, it worked out pretty well. They hired Nick Saban, so don't feel too bad for Alabama. But in our state, I mean, the guy has been there, done that. So, I mean, he's the head coach of West Virginia, Michigan, and Arizona. So, people all throughout the years like, hey, what if, coach is going to leave and take another job? And all I said, well, he's really been at that level. He wanted to come somewhere that football was important to them. He felt like he had a chance to win. And I think we offered those things to him. So, I'd be naive to think, hey, we've got Rich Rodriguez forever. He's not leaving. However, I think he is in a good situation. And, what we're paying him goes a lot further in Jacksonville, Alabama than it would, say, here in Murfreesboro or Nashville or Franklin, for sure.
Yeah. And you may or may not be aware of this, but Bruce Feldman of the Athletic put together his top 25 college football coaches right now. I guess it came out a couple of weeks ago because Stuart Mandel had his list here in the last couple of days. At number 25 is Rich Rodriguez. 60-26 with 3 top 10 seasons in his last 3 years at West Virginia. Then he accepted the Michigan job, which was a weird fit at a weird time for the program. 26 wins in 3 years at Arizona. They've never won more than that in any other 3-year stretch in the history of that program. And now you got him at your place. And like you said, his name is going to continue to come up because people that don't realize the totality of the situation down there are going to think, well, surely he's trying to get out of Jacksonville State, right? Well, no, not necessarily.
No, I mean, we truly do have a great situation. I know you've been on our campus several times, Maurice, but folks who haven't been back in probably the last 10 to 15 years are just shocked and blown away by the growth of it. And our football facilities specifically, we're getting ready to open up a 52,000 square foot football-only building. We are in the final design stages of a new indoor facility, which we currently don't have. So, I mean, we are really, making an investment in FBS football, but it pays off. We saw that already our first year by going to a bowl game, which, you look back at the Conference USA leaders in attendance. We led Conference USA in attendance the first year, a little over 20,000. And it was just a great experience. I tell you, I don't want to pat only myself, but all the athletic directors and everybody in the league. But those midweek games were just, for us, I mean, it was really just phenomenal, just the exposure that we were able to get. And when you look back at it, in 8 of our 13 games, including the bowl game, were broadcast national television. We would never be able, or Middle Tennessee would never be able to buy that type of exposure out of our advertising budget. So it ended up, I mean, we were all a little nervous about it, but the coaches bought in from the very beginning and said, hey, let's do this. And now I think we're seeing those dividends and stuff from it.
Greg Seitz, athletics director at Jacksonville State University down in Alabama, and Wayne County High School alumnus. His Lady Wildcats are up 45-41 here with 2 and some change left in the third quarter of this Class 1A semifinal matchup. Greg, you were wearing some NCAA swag yesterday. Got some more on today. I love looking up at a national NCAA event and seeing you, and the camera seems to find you or you find the camera. I'm not sure which it is exactly, but it's always cool to be sitting there watching an event and say, hey, I know that guy.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. Very fortunate and lucky, and I'll be working my 14th straight Final Four this year in Phoenix. And I've been on the media coordination team so long now. So my job is I'm with the coaches most of the week. But at the end of the game, I get the head coach and take him over for the interview. It was with Jim Nance, but obviously Jim has called his last one. But I take him over the stand. Well, you got 27 cameras at the Final Four. It's hard to avoid that. But very fortunate. I work NCAA baseball as well. And I'm in Omaha at the College World Series. I'll be in Memphis in 2 weeks at the first and second rounds working that. Then take a week off for the regionals and then head to Phoenix. So very fortunate, very blessed to have those opportunities, and I certainly don't take them for granted, that's for sure.
And you work with media coordination, which dovetails with your entry point into athletic administration. You served as athletic media relations director at Jacksonville State for how long?
Quite a while. This is my 8th year. I've been at Jack State. I've been wrapping up my 31st year.
Yep.
And so the last 8 years has been the athletic director. I came in as the assistant for the first 6 years, and I was the media relations director from 99 all the way through 16. But, I think that's really good because it gives you a good perspective of all areas, right? I mean, you're dealing with tickets and promotions, and you're writing PA scripts, you're doing stats. You have those relationships with the former players and the alumni groups. I tell you, the thing that I talk about, and it was great advice from David Housel, who was a long-time SID at Auburn and was the athletic director for a long time. He says, unfortunately, the farther you get up the chain of command, the farther away from the student athletes you get.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, but it's really true because, I'm not at football practice every single day like I was when I was the SID. So, I mean, I know them, but I don't know them as well as I did when I was a sports information director. And they don't. No. They don't, and so a lot of times they're more intimidated because it is the role as the athletic director. But I go to most of my sports, I go to all of their practices. I want to be around the student athletes. Actually, while I'm here, our bowling team, which I will give them a shout out, they're the number 1 ranked bowling team in the country right now. This is our first year, but we're bowling in Smyrna this weekend.
Yeah.
And so I'm headed up there in the morning for them. We've been unanimous number 1. The coach that I've hired, her name is Shannon O'Keefe. She is an 18-time Team USA member. She is the number 1 ranked female bowler in the world. And her and Vanderbilt went at it for years at the bowling circuit. She used to be at McKendree University.
Powerhouse, actually.
So they came to us. She's won 4 national championships. And so I told her, no pressure, coach. But, hey, it'd be great to get a national championship this year. And so, but that's been great. This is our first year with that. With our move up, we needed to add a female sport to help offset those football scholarships. And so we added women's bowling. And I was very lucky and fortunate. I tell people back home, I said, people may remember me for hiring Rich Rodriguez at Jack State.
Yeah.
My best hire may be our bowling coach when we look at this in 10 years down the road.
Well, I will tell you this. Now, one, I saw the Monmouth bowling team at Champies last night, so that explains what that was about. But besides your bowling coach, besides your football coach, your hiring of Eli Gold as your baseball play-by-play announcer probably is not very shabby either.
Yeah, thank you. It's really just timing, right? We all know that. The University of Alabama, for whatever reason, decided that they were ready to go in another direction. The person who's been doing my baseball television was our women's basketball SID, and he got another opportunity and is leaving. But he told us he was going to work through the basketball season. And so whenever Eli's a good friend of mine, and so I gave him a call and said, Eli, I've got this opportunity.
Yep.
He said, I still got some gas in the tank. I am not finished. I didn't want to retire. And so it's a 10-minute drive longer to Jacksonville than where he was driving from Vestavia Hills to Tuscaloosa. So, I was very grateful and thankful that he accepted the position. Now, I told our students and stuff, I said, hey, he has high expectations because he's been at the highest level.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's really going to help our broadcast team because we're student-led from that standpoint, but it's really going to help them. And he's agreed to come in and do some seminars with them and help them. So, he may even end up teaching some in our, broadcasting classes and those things. But I appreciate you mentioning that. We're obviously very excited, and Eli will make his debut in next week or so.
There's some interest here locally in Eli Gold with his recent appointment as play-by-play announcer for the Nashville Cats Arena football team that'll be beginning its season later next month. So has he figured out a shortcut from Jacksonville to Nashville yet? Because I don't think there is one.
There's not, but there's one that goes by Cooter Brown's Ribs, so I know he can bring you a slab of ribs up.
Oh, yeah, he might be a courier then.
Yes, now we're talking.
Bring some of those with you as you come, Eli, and I'll grab them from you. So, yeah. Greg Seitz, athletics director at Jacksonville State University, joining us here from the Lee Company studio. Again, the 11,000-seat Lee Company studio here at Murphy Center as we continue Main Street Sports Today, presented by Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Greg, we appreciate you stopping in with us, and good luck to your Lady Wildcats. Hopefully,
yeah, Greg, I got to ask you, more nerve-wracking, final moments of the New Orleans Bowl or final moments of the 1A girls state semifinals right now as Wayne County is trailing by 1 here at the moment?
I know it. First time they've trailed. I'm going to have to get down there and help them. The New Orleans Bows were going in overtime because you guys know it. How many times do you win a game when you throw 3 defensive touchdowns?
Yep.
Not very often, right? So for us to be able to come in and do that, it's something special. We'll have more bow wins down the road, but there'll never be another first. And so that's obviously what I'm excited about.
Absolutely.
But this here's just a close second right now.
Hey, you're going to need some defense to step up here. All of a sudden, it's a 3-point Pickett County lead here, just under 7 to play. Greg, we're going to let you enjoy this final quarter. We appreciate it, and always look forward to visiting with you.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you, Greg.
Hey, when we come back here on Main Street Sports today, we will be joined by NCAA women's basketball bracketologist Connor GROEL of CBS Sports, talking about the inhabitants of the glass house, among other things, when we come back. Stay with us.
Welcome to Protein Snack Shop, your destination for healthy and delicious low-carb snacks. Our specialty lies in providing protein-packed desserts that are perfect for those following a keto diet. Our products are made with high-quality ingredients, ensuring that you can satisfy your cravings without compromising your health goals. From a variety of flavors and options to choose from, you can enjoy guilt-free snacking while staying on track with your fitness journey. Don't miss out on our limited time offer. Discover Protein Snack Shop today.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers. Putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
The second hour of the weekend update edition of Main Street Sports today, presented by Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Maurice Patton, Wade Neely. It's 51-50 Pickett County. 4.5 minutes left in this Class 1A semifinal matchup with Wayne County. Also from the Southeastern Conference Women's Basketball Tournament over in Greenville. Tennessee 77, Alabama 52, 5.5 minutes left in that one. So we will be keeping tabs on that as well. And speaking of women's basketball.
Yep.
Pretty obvious segue, I guess. But we're now joined by Connor GROEL of CBS Sports, women's basketball bracketologist Connor GROEL. Connor, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. Great to talk to you. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, thank you for joining us, man. obviously Tennessee has gone through some ups and downs over the course of this season, played a really tough non-conference schedule, had some moments here in the SEC season. What do you make of them heading into the NCAA Selection Sunday for women's basketball? It looks like they're headed into the conference tournament semifinals.
Yeah, I mean, first off, this is one heck of a performance they're putting on right now against Alabama. Definitely looking like their strongest performance of the season so far. I think you're absolutely right. At the beginning of the year, they struggled a little bit. I mean, difficult non-conference schedule. No one's going to knock you for losing some of the games they played, like Indiana or Notre Dame or Ohio State, for sure. But you do, run into problems with your resume later down the line where you didn't lose any bad games necessarily. But as of now, the team still doesn't have any net top 25 wins. So they've performed a lot better, during SEC play, and certainly have themselves. They were definitely in the field relatively safely before today. But today, a huge boost to them, probably getting them up onto that 9 seed line. Ultimately, they're probably still overall, they're held back a little bit by that lack of a top 25 win. They will get another crack at South Carolina in the SEC semifinals. And they've played South Carolina really well twice this season, but obviously you're just never expected to win those games. But this is a team that's certainly entering March a lot stronger than they were earlier in the season.
Conversely, Vanderbilt is a team that really got out to a great start. I think they were 17 at one time. You've got them as an 11 seed right now. Did they hurt themselves with that 3-point loss last night to Florida, or are they pretty well set as an 11? Where do you see them going, up, down, or neutral?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I were to guess right now, I think they would probably hold as an 11. I would not be surprised to see them, ending up in the last 4 in and playing in those playing games. Vanderbilt, again, they started out really strong. They looked like early in the season, South Carolina, LSU, and then they looked like they were the 3rd best team in the SEC for a long time, and have certainly struggled over the last 6 weeks or so. I think they definitely had a chance to really lock up a spot in the tournament against Florida, and they didn't do that. So they're still, I think they are in the field right now, but I certainly wouldn't say it's 100%. Certainly they'll be rooting for, the favorites to win these conference tournaments. So there aren't, a bid stealer or two that could make life a little more difficult for them. So I think heading into Selection Sunday, they'll probably be in the field for me, but close enough where it would not be the biggest surprise to see them, end up just outside, but looking okay for now.
So they're going to have lots of fingers crossed, and hoping no thieves come around to snatch a bid from them, I suppose it sounds like, going into the last couple of days here.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at another team, in the state of Tennessee, Middle Tennessee. They're another one of those teams that's, right there. I also have them as an 11 seed, I think, right now. One of those teams where, obviously, I think they're in a very similar position to where they were last season, where they were, one of the strongest teams from the, quote unquote, 1-bid leagues, where, we certainly expect them to win the Conference USA tournament and get their automatic spot into March Madness. However, if they do trip up, it's going to be another one of those situations similar to Vanderbilt where they're going to be very close. And certainly if you are a Vanderbilt fan, I think you are rooting for Middle Tennessee, because Middle Tennessee could end up still stealing your spot even if they don't get in. They're both very close on that cut line right now.
Connor GROEL of CBS Sports joining us here on Main Street Sports today. And Connor, you kind of stole a little bit of my thunder. I was going to save them for last as we are sitting here in Murphy Center. But as long as we have opened that can, should Middle trip up, do they have enough of a resume that they've got an argument for an at-large?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think they have an argument. I mean, whether they ultimately get in is, definitely to be determined. It'll probably, a lot of it will come down to, how bad that loss ends up being in the conference tournament, who they end up losing to. Certainly the best thing for them right now is that they do have the win over Tennessee, and that win only looks better and better as we get closer to Selection Sunday. So as Tennessee continues to put up good performances, I've got their game against Alabama right now on my side screen, still up 20 points. That's going to be, their signature win if they do get an at-large. But obviously, it's really difficult when you don't have all those same opportunities that even if they are a team that's deserving of an NCAA tournament spot, when you only have those 2 or 3 games in the non-conference against teams that will eventually make the field, you really have to make the most of those opportunities. Certainly, I think Middle Tennessee, they don't have any really bad losses outside of Princeton and Michigan. Actually, all 4 of their losses, Princeton, Michigan, Belmont, and Grand Canyon. Those are all teams that maybe wouldn't be an at-large, but at the very least, those teams are all leading their conference or would be an at-large team right now. So no really terrible losses. But I think as this usually goes for a lot of those, again, one bid league kind of teams, your best chance is just going to be, get the job done. They're good enough to do it in the Conference USA tournament for sure.
I love just real quick that we laid out that Tennessee, Vanderbilt is rooting for Middle Tennessee and Middle Tennessee is rooting for Tennessee. It sounds like, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. A little bit of a chain reaction with these Tennessee teams. Maybe they'll get all 3 of them in.
And you talk about opportunities, Connor. I mean, I know that, you're kind of captive of your conference, as Jim Foster used to say years and years ago. There's only so much you can do in terms of creating those opportunities in your conference, and there's only so much you can do in terms of creating those opportunities with your non-conference schedule. I mean, again, Middle beats Tennessee in December, and now we had Rick Insel on yesterday. Tennessee's talking about buying out the return game in Knoxville next year. I mean, you win that kind of game, all of a sudden people don't want to play you. So it gets really tough to make the kind of schedule that creates the opportunities that matter this time of year. It's tough for mid-majors.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, I think it's even tougher, in the women's game than it is in the men's game. I think we see every year in women's basketball that these, top 6 conferences are taking, almost all, if not all of those at-large spots away. And certainly for Middle Tennessee, I mean, there were a couple opportunities they'd probably like to have back. Again, those losses, Belmont and Grand Canyon. But at the end of the day, those are good teams, and they're playing those games on the road. Middle Tennessee is not, being able to play these home games or even neutral site games. So every game they play where, it's a quality win that's at stake, they have to do it on the road, and that makes it more difficult. And certainly I think they're also kind of harmed by the fact that in the women's tournament, how the men have their quadrant system where, for example, a quad 1 win is top 30 at home, but top 75 on the road. So it really helps you out if you can still play some of those road games. The location of the game does not matter for the women's version of their categories. So it's certainly an uphill climb for them. And they had a couple games that, again, probably if 1 or 2 go the other way, they're probably in a much better position right now. But at the end of the day, it's still hard to win on the road. And, it's still, what do we expect from those teams? Like, if the standard to get an at-large is you have to go 30-2, I mean, that's almost impossible no matter how good you are.
We've kind of mentioned Belmont in passing. You've got them as a number 12 and the AQ out of the Missouri Valley. Feel like that pretty well holds up for them as long as they do win the conference, I guess.
Yeah, their team.
I would think that they are definitely an one-bid league, the Missouri Valley, at this point. Is that?
Yeah, the Missouri Valley is for sure. They're going to have some tough competition in that tournament as well. But certainly, I think they're well positioned within that league. And they're certainly going to be the favorite for me to end up taking that down. But yeah, the Missouri Valley is going to be a one-bid league at the end of the day.
Connor, as we head into the final few days here of conference tournament play, who's somebody, we've kind of kept things pretty local, but who's the team that desperately needs either to make a move themselves or needs a lot of help as you kind of glance across your big board?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, there are a couple teams that I have in the first 4 out right now. that dropped games in their conference tournament yesterday. So teams like Mississippi State, teams like California, that really had big opportunities that missed them. I think when we're looking at some of those other teams, though, that can play their way in, and also teams from these mid-major conferences, we've got a team like Columbia in the Ivy League. That's a very strong team. Princeton had been running away with the Ivy League regular season schedule, and were about to go undefeated, and then Columbia beat them to get themselves kind of on the bubble. And if Columbia was able to beat Princeton again in the Ivy League tournament, now that would probably be for the at-large spot, or for the automatic bid, sorry. But that's one where they're a team that could play their way in, and then Princeton would still get an at-large in that scenario. So you could get two teams in from the Ivy League. Something similar could happen with the Atlantic 10, where Richmond is the team that's the 1 seed over there. But a team that could still, certainly they're not as safe as Princeton, but they're a team that could still get an at-large bid, where there are other teams that are pretty good in that conference, where it wouldn't surprise me to see a team like St. Joe's or George Mason end up winning that tournament.
Also, Connor, as we kind of tiptoe, I guess we're contractually obligated to discuss Iowa. And I guess I'm curious, what are you seeing out of Iowa right now? I kind of glanced across the internet, and ironically, one set of brackets had MTSU in the Iowa City Regional. And I guess I'm curious, what does Iowa look like for you? And obviously, it feels like, obviously anything short of a national championship will be a disappointment for them this year.
Yeah, I mean, Caitlin's done just about everything else except win that national championship. And I don't necessarily think at all that she needs the national championship to be validated as one of the best women's players. But at the same time, she's going to be very disappointed if she can't get it. And certainly they're the big team that everyone's talking about right now. Us at CBS, we're very excited. We have the Big Ten Women's Championship game on CBS Network on Sunday. Iowa, a favorite to be in that game. Iowa right now, they're fighting for a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. They got a big help, Ohio State, with a pretty surprising loss just earlier today to Maryland that, for me, moved Ohio State off the 1 seed line and now gave Iowa that final 1 seed. So Iowa has that spot for now. But certainly they're still looking to win that Big Ten tournament in order to feel comfortable about that 1 seed. They're going to have to run through, it looks like, probably Indiana in the semifinals, which a lot of people don't remember. Indiana was a 1 seed in March Madness last year, and they still brought back most of that team. We'll see their star, Mackenzie Holmes, has a knee injury at the moment. So we're still not quite positive about what her availability will be like for the Big Ten tournament and March Madness as a whole. But that's still a very strong team. So if Iowa can get past them, it looks like, the main team out of the draw, Ohio State's already out. So if they can get past Indiana, you'd have to love their chances in the Big Ten championship and getting a 1 seed.
It feels a little ironic, Connor, that in the final year of the Pac-12, they are projected to have 2 number 1s in Stanford and UCLA. And how solid do you feel like both them are, particularly if, Ohio State comes off that one line and it's Iowa instead? Do you still feel like both Stanford and UCLA are 1s?
Yeah, I think this win, I'm not willing to say 100%, but I think it gets Stanford to pretty close to being 100% out of 1 seed. Right now, I have them as the number 2 team overall behind South Carolina, which no one's touching South Carolina unless they can prove it. But yeah, the Pac-12, we don't need to get too deep into all the realignment stuff, but it's really a shame that for such a strong league that's been historically so successful in, not just men's and women's basketball, but, really across the board, that a lot of that's getting disrupted just by the conference realignment with football. But the Pac-12 has been the strongest conference, and I don't think it's even been really that close in women's basketball this season. You're right, Stanford and UCLA right now is 1 seeds, but USC is another team with their superstar freshman Juju Watkins that has the potential to also climb up onto that 1 seed line. USC and UCLA are playing in the Pac-12 semis tonight. And if USC can beat UCLA, they have a chance at taking that 1 seed from UCLA. So this is a really strong conference, but again, more than just those teams at the top. Oregon State is really good. Colorado is really good. Utah is really good. It's such a top-heavy conference, and so many strong teams that, I mean, at least if this is going to be the last year of the Pac-12, they're certainly finishing it in style. They're really, really good this year.
No doubt. Connor GROEL of CBS Sports joining us here on Main Street Sports today, talking a little NCAA women's bracketology. You can follow him on whatever you call that social media platform, at Connor GROEL, GROEL. Connor, we appreciate you sharing some insight with us, and look forward to visiting with you again at some point.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. This was a blast. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Connor.
Thank you. When we come back on Main Street Sports today, presented by Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, we'll talk a little football, both the pro and the college, not amateur, variety. So stay tuned here after the break from the Lee Company Studios.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Welcome to Protein Snack Shop, your destination for healthy and delicious low-carb snacks. Our specialty lies in providing protein-packed desserts that are perfect for those following a keto diet. Our products are made with high-quality ingredients, ensuring that you can satisfy your cravings without compromising your health goals. From a variety of flavors and options to choose from, you can enjoy guilt-free snacking while staying on track with your fitness journey. Don't miss out on our limited time offer. Discover Protein Snack Shop today.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers. Putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
down the stretch here in the weekend update edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Maurice Patton, Wade Neely. As we were finishing up with Connor Grohl, Pickett County was finishing up a comeback against Wayne County, 59-54. The final there, as you will have Pickett County and Moore County now in the Class 1A championship game at 3:30 tomorrow. So tough loss for Wayne County. They controlled that thing most of the game until about midway through the fourth quarter. It's a 32-minute game.
Yep, and that's one of those that'll probably haunt you, right? You know, they've been so close the last couple of years, and then maybe you're thinking this is the year you get it, and felt like one of those games. Whichever team wins that game, obviously, hats off to Pickett County. Seems like that team is going to have a lot of momentum going into the championship game on Saturday now, and it's to me, it kind of almost felt like one of those games. Hey, this is the unofficial championship in some respects. I know you still obviously got the rest of the bracket to play, but it certainly felt like Pickett County and Wayne County were two of the better teams in 1A basketball all year.
Absolutely. You know, we mentioned Tennessee in the last segment talking with Connor Grohl. The Lady Vols with an 83-61 win over Alabama to advance into tomorrow's semifinals over in Greenville. So big win for the Lady Vols there. Wade, let's talk a little football. Let's start in Ann Arbor.
Oh, baby.
Friend of the show, John Bryce of footballscoop.com, says that former U of M running back Mike Hart has not been retained on Sharon Moore's staff. Was not extended a new contract nor an opportunity to return.
Yeah, that's unfortunate because he's when you think about Michigan, you hear the term, Michigan man. He is the embodiment of the Michigan man. And there was a small sect of folks that thought he might get a shot, an outside shot, if Moore, for some reason, was not named the head coach. And, man, he was an all-time running back at Michigan and had really kind of revitalized that coaching staff a little bit along with Sharon Moore. So, kind of disappointing, obviously, as a Michigan fan, but also, his services will be sought at a high level. I think he's setting himself up to potentially get into the head coaching ranks. He's waiting on that first crack, whether it's through the offensive coordinator role first or just straight to a head coach. And that's the chatter that I kind of heard, was that if he did not get a sniff at the head coaching position, which obviously we know went to Sharon Moore, I wish him well, and it seems like that's probably the move that was made, is like, hey, I don't really see a path to becoming the head coach here, so I'm going to go somewhere else that try and sets me up. This time next year, maybe we could be talking about him getting a head coaching position.
So you feel like this was a Mike Hart move and not a Sharon Moore move?
That's kind of what I think, and that's kind of the little bit of chatter that I had heard. I'm not as close with the program as some might think, but
gear notwithstanding.
Yeah, and so it's really the chatter that I had kind of heard was that, yeah, probably more of his positioning himself for the future. And I think they were honestly there was going to be a little bit of a battle for his services, I think, even if Harbaugh had stuck around this year, just in the sense that, yeah, this guy is pretty clear with his goals. He's a determined guy, always has been and kind of always will be. And so getting to that next step has kind of been a big thing for him, which I think is kind of maybe why we didn't necessarily see him follow Harbaugh to Ann Arbor, or to Los Angeles, rather. He has his sights set on becoming a head coach, presumably at the college level, and this maybe stepping away kind of takes him, although it's on a sad little bit of a deviation from the journey. Obviously, you'd like to just stay right there at Michigan and continue that trajectory, but I think this is part of a bigger plan. Yeah, to answer your question, more of a he than a we situation.
We talked on this show a few weeks ago about Tennessee State's hire of former North Dakota State offensive coordinator Tyler Rowe, and lauded that hiring by Eddie George and the Tennessee staff, Tennessee State athletic administration. Tyler Rowe has since left for a similar position at Iowa State. getting back closer to his home, obviously, and getting into a Power 5 situation there with Matt Campbell in Ames, Iowa. Tennessee State has now hired former UT Martin offensive coordinator Travis Partridge.
Didn't have to look far.
Didn't have to look far. Got somebody who has a little bit more familiarity with their program. Again, having coached against them in the Ohio Valley Conference ranks. Also has some experience having coached at the Power 5 level at Kansas. Played some pro ball with the Minnesota Vikings and in the Canadian Football League. So nice little recovery, I guess, by the Tigers after that interesting little interlude.
Yeah, I'm still trying to think of how you necessarily describe that, because an odd song and dance, to say the least. But yeah, I'm with you. I think this is about as good of a situation as you could probably expect to get. Pretty familiar, obviously, with the league, pretty familiar by proxy with TSU in general, and obviously a pretty solid coordinator. And considering how late in the process we are, yeah, this is, I'm not going to say a home run, but I think it's a solid double, if not maybe, round and looking for third right there.
I think it's a run-scoring base hit at the very least. Yeah, I mean, when you're put in that position of having to hire two offensive coordinators in the same offseason, I think this is a nice bounce back for your second hire. So good get for Eddie George and the Tigers as they forge ahead in Ohio Valley Conference action. And anytime you can strengthen your situation and weaken an opponent's, because now UT Martin is looking at hiring an offensive coordinator in March.
Yeah, I got to see Eddie at the Titans groundbreaking last Thursday at the new Nissan Stadium. I didn't see him reading Machiavelli by any stretch, but a little Machiavellian tactics right there. You're right, Mo Patton. When we can take one of yours away, now not only do we get a little better, but you obviously get a little weaker.
Or if you're not getting weaker, you're certainly in a
making them work harder,
uncomfortable position.
Yeah. So he's been brushing up on his dark arts there, right there, and that's an old school move right there to. Even if it doesn't necessarily work out that great for you, obviously, you're putting your opponents at a little bit of a disadvantage there. I like the move.
I like it on a number of fronts. Absolutely. There seems to be a storm brewing between college football, specifically the college football playoffs, and the NFL. December 21st, the college football playoff has scheduled 3 of its 4 first-round playoff games. The 5-12, 6-11, that round with the top 4 seeds getting buys. That first round, I think they've got one game scheduled on Friday, December 20th, which is okay. High school football is over with, I guess, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah,
I'm not a big fan of colleges on Friday nights, but that's just me. But again, they've got 3 games scheduled on Saturday, a day the NFL had targeted as a late season Saturday showcase, according to awfulannouncing.com. Excuse me. So apparently the NFL is trying to talk college football and the college football playoff into moving somebody off of that December 21st schedule, maybe a game to Friday, 2 games on Friday, 2 games on Saturday, and kind of opening up that window a little bit for the NFL.
I just love the fact that the NFL is leaning on college football, saying, in case there was really any doubt kind of who's moving the needle here, it's the NFL's leaning on them and kind of saying, we would really like it if you were the ones that moved. It's not, I'm not hearing as much, on the college football side of it where they're saying, gee, Roger Goodell, it'd be really nice if you just if you would do us a solid. It seems like the NFL's like, almost patting them on the shoulder and saying, hey, we see what you're doing and all, but we're gonna need you to kind of move your things a little bit here.
And that's interesting that the NFL is the one initiating this conversation, because college football said this is when we're playing.
And as a football fan, obviously, it could be electric because, you could just load up and just watch games, till your heart is content.
Mm-hmm.
But
and here's the thing. It makes you wonder just how secure is the NFL right now, because I will tell you that unless it was a Titans game, hint, it won't be a Titans game. On that Saturday, I'm way more likely to watch a college football playoff game on December 21st than I am an NFL game.
If they're going head-to-head, I'm probably right there with you. Because, just think about it, right? It's a regular season game.
Right.
It would have to be a massive matchup. It'd have to be like Chiefs-Dolphins or something to that effect, or whoever, the insert one, the 49ers and the Packers, or 49ers-Cowboys deep in the stretch. To really kind of get, which I guess is the benefit for the NFL in this, is that they slide whichever teams they want in. So in theory, it's not as if we already know that it's going to be the Jets and the Giants necessarily set for that day. They could slide that in a couple weeks in advance and really make that kind of a tough decision for football viewers.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be the Cardinals Panthers. Or
no,
like that,
unlikely to be. And yeah, I'm with you. Unless it's just a high stakes game, if I'm only being able to pick one, I'm probably going to pick the college football game. Really, honestly, regardless of who those two teams are.
Right.
Just because the drama is there of one team getting eliminated, right? That's kind of just that's the reason why we watch the NFL playoffs to an extent, regardless of it's the wild card weekend. Yeah, maybe two teams that have no shot of really advancing beyond that weekend, but we're still going to watch because there's little stakes on the line. And that's what we get with college football being in the mix there, in my opinion.
It's a little ironic that you mentioned Chiefs-Dolphins.
I did not mean to do that.
But it worked out, though. There is an article on CBSSports.com. Some Chiefs-Dolphins fans who attended record cold playoff game now need amputations, per report.
Whoa.
A general surgeon at Kansas City's Grossman Burns Center told a local television station that 70% of the patients referred to them for frostbite injuries suffered during that game are being advised to schedule amputations. Frostbite is real, y'all.
Man, that is kind of just a wild story, and we saw it, obviously, and we kind of
you saw Patrick Mahomes' helmet.
Right.
Break.
We see that, and there's kind of this macho or tough guy factor that kind of comes into play a little bit with this. You want to kind of brag to your friends that I was able to gut it out and I was able to go to the game. But, I ain't messing around with no frostbite, especially like you said. Did you say 70%? Is that
70% of the patients referred for frostbite injury suffered at the January 13 game that kicked off with a temperature of -4 and a wind chill factor of -27 degrees.
No, thank you.
No, thank you. Fourth coldest game ever recorded in NFL history and the coldest in Chiefs history. And as NBC Sports noted at the time, the NFL has no threshold for postponing or canceling games due to low temps. I don't know if that'll change or not.
That may get revisited.
Man, who'd have thought that going to a football game could cost you digits?
No, that, and I ironically, not in our run of show today, but just for, I just read an article this morning. U.S. Soccer is having issues having to revisit with they played 2 matches lately, one in frigid cold conditions and the other in extreme rain temperatures last night, the USA women. And they are a sport that in North America, and this is the article that I'm reading, by and large, unless it's lightning, we're playing the game. And even now they are going back and kind of reconsidering. And when you throw in a report like this for the NFL, I mean, at what point do you really seriously, that's not good. When fan safety is obviously a thing, then,
well, I saw
all
a
bets
video.
are off.
I saw a video of that soccer, and they were kicking balls up the field, and balls were just stopping in puddles of water and that kind of thing. Not only is it a fan issue, but it's impacting the style of play or the play of the game itself. So that's weather.
And there was another one where there was extreme cold involved, and it was kind of the same argument was, at what point is this just too much? Like, not only are the players at risk, but now obviously the fans, and then the which is worse, obviously. This is, the worst situation where you have literal damage and ramifications.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, the alternative is not great either, advising fans not to come to the game, but we're still going to make the players play the game, or the last thing the NFL obviously wants to do is have to reschedule a game.
Absolutely.
So you're not in a great situation, but I would not be shocked if this is revisited, because that is a shocking story.
Yeah.
I got cold just when you sent the link out last night, partner. I got a little touch. It was freezing in the Geodis Park press box, by the way. Our good friend Teresa Walker, I think I heard her teeth chattering.
Oh, good Lord.
And she just calmly looked at me and said, "It's so cold in here, I'm about to have to light you on fire." and then about 20 minutes later, she said, "You know what? It's so cold, I might have to light myself on fire now." So
I'm glad neither of you suffered any frostbite.
No frostbite was had last night. I can promise you that, though, partner.
We talked to Tobias Wilborn earlier this week, and it was a far-ranging conversation, as tends to be the case when we visit with Tobias Wilborn. But one of the things we touched on was Russell Wilson, and he mentioned Steelers. Russell Wilson is apparently visiting with the Steelers regarding their quarterback situation. Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, Russell Wilson. Who would your guy be?
The easy answer to say is obviously Russ, right?
Let Russ cook, right?
Let him cook. Let him do his thing. I could see the argument maybe that you don't, if you're going to let one of the other guys have it, you want them to have it from the beginning and kind of get some momentum, I guess. You always run into that weird deal when you throw a guy in, you don't get a true evaluation. But if you could bring him in, and the way his contract is set up and things of that nature, it would be, like I said on the show when we had Tobias on, I'm just visualizing so many of those overthrows and so many of those underthrows that we saw last year to that really low-key talented receiving core in Pittsburgh. But then you just have Russ just go out there and just lob him. I think he's got a little more in the tank than kind of what we obviously saw in Denver.
I think he's got a little bit more in the tank. I think that there was obviously a disconnect between him and that coaching staff. I think he's got a little bit more in the tank, and I think Pittsburgh is close enough that a quarterback might be what they need. And I don't think there's anybody that can tell you with all certainty that Kenny Pickett is it. And they really just kind of caught lightning in a bottle, I think, with Mason Rudolph. I don't think that's your guy from week one. So I'll be interested to see where this goes. And if it's not Pittsburgh, I don't know where it is really for us. Because I'd imagine he'd want to go somewhere, as he did when he went to Denver, where he thought that they were a quarterback away.
Yeah.
Clearly that wasn't the case. But I think that's what he's looking for. And I don't know how many other situations there are where that's the case.
And this is a guy, he's the proverbial, give him a little bit of attitude or a little bit of a chip on the shoulder, NC State, Wisconsin type situation during his college career. This is a guy, in my opinion, and you seems like you agree as well. he's still got a little bit left. And for a team, that division could be a lot of fun to watch next year if Pittsburgh can get any sort of quality play at the quarterback position. Really, whether it's him or it's anybody at all, it could be fantastic. So,
a veteran Southern Middle Tennessee area official, Thomas Frierson, threatening to put on the headset over here. He don't know how close he came to getting slapped on.
Well, I didn't know that there was a pool report issued for the officials. So that was the closest thing we just came. I think I see some of the TSSAA head honchos down on the court. They just had a freak out moment there. They said the refs aren't supposed to talk to the media. You guys just almost had a guest right there on the spot.
Main Street Sports Today. You never know who might drop by, right?
I mean, we could have got some breakdown. This has been a fun tournament, and 3 days we've seen a lot of great basketball games, and really we maybe saw one of the best finishes of the week just a moment ago with Wayne County and Pickett
Couldn't
County.
pay nearly as much attention to it as we wanted to, but yeah, that was a good one.
I was moments away from dropping a link to Connor in our StreamYard chat here to tell him how to tune in to watch it too, so he could watch it with us. I felt like he was missing out a little bit because we were kind of talking with him and watching and paying attention to him, but we're also watching the game going on in the background.
It was kind of a one eye on Connor and one eye on the floor, yeah, for sure. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today. Come back for the final segment and let's kind of talk a little bit about what we got planned this weekend. So we'll do that when we come back to the 11,000 seat Lee Company studio here on Main Street Sports Today. Stay with us.
I'm Maurice Patton, and on Main Street Sports Today, we bring you the voices of your favorite teams from preps to pros.
Otherwise known as the VOT, Mike Keith.
The bottom line is we can teach Will Levis woke.
I just don't know who's going to work with you on your base stealing now that Eli's gone.
Well, that has nowhere to go but up. And I was just like, oh, guys, not again. Can we just bury that, burn that footage, and not bring it back?
No. No.
Thank you. We'll keep it going past the All-Star break, and looking forward to seeing how the rest of the season plays out. There's always a good story to tell.
Can you guess where I am today, Mo? Where am I?
It's not Reese Smith Field, is it?
Yeah.
Because anytime you play Chicago, you want to win. That's just
you got that right, and
that's bottom line.
Be a buzz.
When you're walking the dog, you keep the bags that you need for the dog in the bag, and you don't even have to wear it. You can just hold it, which is what I do when I walk the dog. So
I think the fanny pack probably needed a little rebranding.
It did. It really did.
On your show logo, we've got to get a puck in there. There's a basketball. There's a football. There's a baseball. Maybe if not a puck, how about Mo brandishes a hockey stick?
Tune in daily at 2 p.m. on Main Street Media TV.
An update edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Maurice Patton, Wade Neely, sending you into the weekend here. Wade, what are you looking forward to between now and when we reconvene Monday at 2 o'clock?
Looking forward to a good weekend. Obviously going to be keeping tabs on what happens here the rest of the tournament in Murfreesboro. Still some good ball games tonight, including the Loretto Lady Mustangs, which will be coming up a little bit after we go off air here today. I'm curious to see, since we've been on air, we got to see a really good Moore County win, and we got to see an electric Pickett County win. On paper, I don't know that Pickett or Moore County has enough to really match up with Pickett County, but their games aren't played on paper. So I think that will be a fantastic championship game. So looking forward to keeping tabs on this tournament a lot. And then honestly looking forward to just recharging. We'll be watching some college basketball, watching a lot of the mid-major tournaments going on this weekend. Maybe some Arch Madness, maybe some OVC. I got to give a shout-out to my guy at Morehead State, Scotty Combs, former Martin Methodist head coach. So I'll be keeping tabs on all things basketball, but also recharging the batteries to get ready to come back up here for the boys tournament next week.
While I'm thinking about it, where are the Firehawks headed?
Ooh, good point. We forgot to mention that earlier.
Yeah.
UT Southern is headed to Marion, Indiana.
Could have been worse.
And I'll have a story coming up this weekend on PulaskiCitizen.com. Could have been a lot worse. Could have gone to Butte, Montana. Could have gone to Miami. Which, if you're going to make a trip that far, Miami's
might as well.
Yeah, might as well. And so, but they're going to Marion, Indiana. They will take on Tougaloo, Mississippi in the first round of the tournament. And we were chatting before we went on air with a good friend of ours, Dr. Tim Wilson, who's a professor here at MTSU, sport management professor. He was my broadcast partner. The UT Southern, formerly Martin Methodist, they met Tougaloo in the 2010-11 national tournament in Kansas City. So that's the first rematch since then. That was a crazy game. And that team went to the Final Four that year. So if you're into tea leaves and you're into some positivity, UT Southern, even though they got to go to Indiana to play them, they get Tougaloo in the first round. If they win that game, they would probably meet number 2 seed Indiana Wesleyan. So decent draw. Like you said, not Miami, but also not Butte, Montana, or Caldwell, Idaho, I suppose.
So now, how many regions are there?
6. So it's essentially 16.
Okay, and then the 16 region winners
all go to Kansas City.
Instead of taking 32 teams or 60. What was it? 64.
So 3 years ago they changed the format. Originally old school, if you will, 32 teams all made it to Kansas City, which was a lot of fun because they just played from 9 a.m. until midnight.
Yeah, I mean, we had years when Belmont was out there, when Lipscomb was out there back when they were in AIA, and it sounded like a total blast.
It's fun, and it's
at the Kemper Arena, right?
Formerly, and now it's Municipal Auditorium, the old school gym. The cool thing about that tournament, there are no media timeouts, and there's 10 minutes between games.
Oh.
I mean, you talk.
Get them in and get them out.
They are rolling, and you're still always behind schedule. Famously, one of the last times we went out there, we tipped off at about 11 o'clock. I think our game was supposed to start. It was actually about 11:30. Supposed to start at 10, so we tip off about an hour and a half late. Precisely at the stroke of midnight, the lights in the whole gym went out. They were on a timer, and they didn't think they were supposed to go, beyond midnight, obviously. So it took about 15 minutes to get the lights going back up and running, and that was a crazy, crazy time. But UT Southern, UTSFirehawks.com has coverage there, and also we'll have a story up online, PulaskiCitizen.com, and in print next week. So how about you, my friend? What's on tap for you this weekend?
Well, I'll be keeping an eye on this stuff. Again, we've got 2 championship matchups set. Bartlett and Bradley Central. Bartlett defeated Cleveland earlier today, 65-55. So it's Bartlett and Bradley Central. Bradley Central defeated Coffee County 55-35. That's your 4A championship game. That starts at 1 o'clock tomorrow. At 3:30, we'll have Moore County and Pickett County in the 1A finals. Following that, at 6 o'clock, it'll be the 2A finals. We've got York Institute and Gibson County playing here in the semifinal. The other semifinal is at 5:30, Gatlinburg, Pittman, and Loretto. And then the 3A finals will be some combination of Cock County, Dyersburg, and Upperman, South Gibson.
Upperman wins again. We talked about him yesterday.
Yep, the Lady Bees, keep an eye on them, buzz. So, championship Saturday tomorrow here at the Glass House. Obviously, we've got that UT Kentucky game at 3 o'clock tomorrow that we'll be seeing if Tennessee can complete that late regular season gauntlet and go 4-0 through Auburn, Alabama, South Carolina, and Kentucky.
Yep.
Wow. If that doesn't make them, if they beat Kentucky tomorrow and that doesn't make them a number 1 seed, I don't know what more there is they can do. So
I guess the only good news is Tennessee's either going to get a 1 seed or they're going to get a 2 seed and play in Memphis, which is about as good of a consolation as you could get, I suppose. But yeah, you want the 1, obviously.
Are you going to Geo this Sunday?
Will not be at Geo this Sunday. I don't know what. We'll be resting and getting ready. I'll put my tux on Sunday night. We'll be watching the Oscars, my friend. Getting ready for that. No, not going to Geota Sunday. Going to skip this one. Hopefully be back. Obviously hoping they win next Wednesday because that puts them through to the round of 8, the quarterfinals for the CONCACAF.
Who is the other? Do we know?
Don't know for sure. I want to say it's Cincinnati. I don't know. I don't know. I was going to say it's Cincinnati and Monterrey out of Mexico, but I think that's incorrect. And so,
hang on. I can tell you, I have never looked up.
They might be down here.
Soccer bracket before. It is Monterrey and Cincinnati.
Okay, and Monterrey, if I remember correctly, won 1-0 on the road last night, so they have a massive leg up going into their home match, and that means Cincinnati's going down to Mexico.
Cincinnati's going to Monterrey.
Yeah, which will be tough. So that would be massive. But obviously, Nashville's got to take care of business. It was fun. It was a raucous environment. Not as many Messi jerseys as you might have thought last night.
Yeah, did Messi play last night?
Messi played. Messi scored, and Suarez scored. And Messi really missed another chance. Otherwise, we'd be talking about Nashville losing that game. But crazy, crazy atmosphere last night. Not going on Sunday. I'm going to be resting up and, like I said, put my black tie on a Sunday night, I guess.
Okay, all right. You do anything special for the Oscars? You got any kind of pools or anything like that?
No, but you're piquing my interest, though. I might have to get in on that. No, we'll honestly, I haven't seen my parents, I don't think, in the last 3 weeks since we've been covering so many basketball games. So I'll probably go hang out with them and force them to watch it. That's one of my favorite habits in life is forcing my parents to watch things they don't want to watch. On NBA, on Christmas Day, I always grab the remote and I flip on NBA. They don't want to watch that. They want to, watch a Christmas Story on 24-hour repeat. So that's a favorite pastime of mine is doing that to them. So.
Are you an only child?
Older brother.
Older brother.
Yeah, you would think that, but yeah, no.
Okay, well you're the baby then.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how you get away with that.
Yeah, the favorite we like to call it, but yeah, I subject them to some stuff for sure.
Goodness gracious. Any final thoughts?
Been a heck of a week here in Murfreesboro. Thanks to all of our great guests and thanks to all of the staff here at MTSU for taking good care of us. And we'll do it again next week.
We will do it again next week. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. In all likelihood, we will have a few more teams of local interest here next week, particularly of our local interest, as Santa Fe will play on day 1 against North Green. And, don't be fooled by North Green's 21-15 record when they match up with Santa Fe next week, because one of those 21 is Harriman. And then we will have 4A state finalist Independence also in the mix from our Main Street Murray coverage area. So it's going to be another fun week for us. And again, Wade and I will both be courtside for Loretto and Gatlinburg Pittman here later in this one. We'll have coverage up on the website at Main Street Murray. Yeah, MainStreetMurray.com later tonight. So be sure and check that out as well. I think that's going to do it for us. Let's get on out of here.
Yeah, what a good week we've had.
Yeah, we're going to get out of here. We are going to get set up for the 5:30 game. And we will see you guys. Some combination of me, Wade, and Chris will be somewhere Monday at 2 o'clock with Main Street Sports Today presented by the Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. So join us and see who shows up. We'll see you then.